Before you is a conceptual site plan for Shockoe Center. And of course, as you look at that slide, the biggest thing you see is a ballpark right in the middle of the Shockoe bottom. What we have designed is a smaller stadium, smaller ballpark than what we have at the Diamond. We have 6,500 fixed seats and about 2,000 capacity in surrounding areas on berms, open spaces, and in some of the retail establishments that will ring the park. It is about 20 feet in the ground so that it is depressed into the ground as opposed to standing up out of the ground the way the Diamond does today. We were looking at building around it with the various retail, residential, and office uses. And then across on the other side of the train station, about where that arrow is, we're looking at an opportunity for some high-rise development, office buildings, hotel. If you'll notice at Franklin Street, and I'll be sorry, I don't know how to operate the arrow, but Franklin Street coming down from the parking decks on the other side of 95 will be a gateway coming into the entertainment district created by the ballpark. We would look to open up Franklin Street underneath the train shed, and the Seaboard building, a two-story period piece of architecture, is the potential home for some type of museum or interpretive center for African American history and culture. This is an important area, and we need to recognize that in our community. Our goal would be to make this a major gateway from the downtown area into the entertainment ballpark zone, and to put two additional buildings of similar scale, similar architectural design, so that this building is not on its own. It is part of a major gateway into the complex. As we look at uses, our present plan calls for a 200,000 square foot Class A corporate style headquarters building, office building, in between the railroad tracks and the interstate in that western zone. Approximately 80,000 square feet of retail development, basically oriented around the ballpark. 300 hotel rooms in two hotels, one that would be directly facing into the ballpark, and one that would be on the other side of the railroad tracks with the high-rise office building. 250 apartments. Depending on the scale and how much land is included in the project, that could go upwards to 600 apartments in that area. We're looking at about 60 condominiums that could be built on top of the hotel on the western side of the property, and 2 parking decks plus surface parking. In terms of, yes, and the ballpark. I almost forgot it, and the ballpark, which we estimated about a $60 million project. How could I forget the ballpark? In terms of values, approximately $235 million in private sector commercial development, approximately $60 million for the ballpark. We are looking to finance the $60 million, but in conjunction with the GRTC transfer station, there may be some opportunities to take advantage of historic tax credits, and I think that's something we need to explore as to whether we could generate approximately $20 million of additional funding for the ballpark piece of the project through recycling some of our own money. The transfer station itself at approximately $45 million, that is a moving target, and don't know where that will be. And 2 parking decks. Altogether, there is some city infrastructure with, that will go on in addition, approximately $363 million of development. This is a view of the project from Churchill. And actually, it's a little higher than Church Hill because we needed the height in order to see that there was a ballpark in it. With the being 20 feet in the ground and building some buildings around it, you kind of lose the fact that there's a ballpark down there in Shockoe Bottom. But you can see facing you the Broad Street frontage, and the small building in the foreground is the McDonald's. Okay? The corner of the project where you see the 4-story building is the Exxon station. You can kind of get a feel for it from there. So we're looking at building along Broad Street with a streetscape type of environment. Development towards the eastern side of the property would be lower rise, moving higher as we move away from the neighborhood, move towards the train tracks and the interstate and downtown. This gives us a good opportunity to create economic development where it is least offensive to the community and be sensitive to it where we are right next to the community. And just so you can see, there really is a ballpark in there. We have a cutaway, so you can see there really is a ball field down in there. Give you an idea, here's Broad Street today. We can talk about lowering the utilities underground, but that is a good perspective of how the hill coming down relates to the project. I could like to talk to you a little bit about timing, because that is something we need to talk about. Today is the announcement of Highwoods as the master developer for both sites. This starts the beginning of a community dialogue about what we're doing in both these areas. Tomorrow, we begin a whole series of meetings with a whole lot of people that we've been precluded from talking to about this project. We also begin a process of negotiations with the RMA, with negotiating letters of intent. Hopefully, those can be worked out with a transition team from the new mayor, whoever that might be. We would hope that by March 1st, we can execute a letter of intent for both projects that would allow a private group, not Highwoods, to acquire a ball team and to begin design on the ballpark itself. We're looking to sign a definitive agreement by May 1st and to begin a rezoning process, and hopefully to conclude the rezoning process around August of next year. Now, if we work together, I think that's a feasible timeline. It doesn't rush anybody. It doesn't mean that the whole deal's cooked. It gives us a chance to discuss what we're doing and why we're doing it. One of the reasons we're doing this is that we need to, in the future, we need to close on some bonds for a ballpark. We're going to be asking the city to designate a tax-exempt entity, whichever one is appropriate, to float a bond issue. And we will need to close on the bonds. We'll need to begin ballpark construction at some point after that. The new ball team for Richmond would play its first season 2010 at the Diamond. And then we would complete ballpark construction in the bottom. We'd complete the other building construction. What you see around the ballpark needs to all be completed at the same time, so we have a complete project down there. And then start the first season of baseball in the new Shockoe Center. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Black.